Welcome to Cop to Corporate. I'm Sam, your podcast host, and this is the podcast where we unpack one of the most challenging career pivots out there, moving from the structured, high stakes world of law enforcement into the fast moving, strategy driven world of business and entrepreneurship. Today's guest is Sasha Larkin, former Las Vegas Metro police officer. Actually, more specifically, Nevada's first female assistant sheriff, which is so badass, and current director of intelligence for the FIFA World Cup 2026. We're going to talk about her journey and how unanswered prayers often lead you to a happy life that you never thought could exist. So, Sasha, welcome to Cop to Corporate.
Thanks, Sam. I'm really honored to be here.
I'm honored that you are here. So, when you and I talked yesterday, you told me that when you became a cop, your ultimate goal was to be on patrol on the streets. So, can you tell us how you got into law enforcement and what your journey looked like after you got in?
So I think it's interesting. I always hear people tell their story on how and why they became a police officer. They wanted to change the world. They wanted to help people and all of the novelistic ideas that go along with it. And I am not unique to that, but I fell in love with a man who is probably way before your time. His real name is Larry Wilcox. His stage name was John Baker. And in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, there was a show called CHIPS, and it was an acronym for California Highway Patrol. And growing up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, all of the men in Albuquerque looked like Eric Estrada, who played Poncherello, but none of them looked like this mystical blonde-haired creature, John Baker. And I was 3 years old, sitting in front of my TV that had literally a wired coat hanger as an antenna and the kind of knob that you had to turn to get your three channels. And Chips would come on Wednesday nights at like 7 o'clock. And it was a 30-minute show, and my mom let me watch that on Wednesdays and the Smurfs on Saturday. That was it. That was my TV allocation, which my children cannot believe today. And I couldn't believe that these brave police officers were riding their motorcycles and saving people and doing these things. And something inside of me like woke up and went, I'm going to do that. That's my longing. That is my dharma in life. That was it. That's all I
At
ever
three
wanted to
years
do.
old.
That was it. I never wanted to be like a teacher or an astronaut or a biologist. All I wanted to do was wear a badge, have a gun, save people, and admittedly drive fast because that's part of it. But that was it. That's why I became a police officer. Now, I'm sure there was some deep moralistic thing inside of me as well, but that was the little kid dream inside of me that guided my efforts forever.
That, I think, is the most heartwarming story I've ever heard about why someone decided to become a cop. So, you
True.
worked in Las Vegas for many, many years. What brought you from New Mexico to Vegas?
All right, it's a little fun fact that very few people know, Sam, so I'm going to let you in on
Go.
it because I feel like we bonded yesterday.
Yes.
I was a classically trained ballet dancer my whole life until I was about 12, maybe a little bit younger. I dislocated my hip dancing on pointe shoes, and my dreams of being a Juilliard trained ballet dancer were crushed. And so my mom put me into martial arts, and I started competing on a national and international karate circuit and became rather skilled at it. And I was in Vegas in 1994 or 1995 and won the International Karate Championships. And while I was there, as a thank you present, my mom took me to see a show at the Stardust Hotel, which sadly is no longer standing. And while I was there, the theater manager said, "Oh my God, are you a dancer? You should come audition for our show." And I was like, "No, no, 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 I'm a martial artist." And he gave me his card and he said, "Well, if you ever want to, we are holding auditions for the first time in, I don't know, 5 years. You should come audition." And the thought just haunted me. And I went to auditions and they decided to adopt me to be a showgirl in a Las Vegas show. And so I left college early, the end of my junior year, and moved to Las Vegas and became a showgirl.
My gosh. What a story you have.
Yeah, like
And
feathers and headdresses and sequins, the whole thing.
wow. Well, and
Yeah,
there's something to be said about you said that it haunted you. When you have a little nudge or when there's something that you can't stop thinking about, how important
yeah,
it is to follow that.
so
Because
true.
then what? I mean, you were doing ballet and then you did martial arts. Was being a cop still on your mind?
All the time, but I thought I would do it after graduate school. Like I had these ambitions. I was gonna go to the FBI and solve, I don't know, high-level crimes. Like it didn't occur to me I was gonna go to local law enforcement. And so I moved to Vegas. I'm dancing in the show at night, having the time of my life. And during the day, I was going to school, finishing my senior year, and working at a restaurant called Gordon Biersch. It was a brewery. And every day, these police officers would come in for lunch because it was right next to their office building. And they were like, "Hey, we work in recruiting. You should come take the test." And I was like, "No, I'm going to go to the FBI." And they used to laugh. And they were like, "No, come on, come be a real cop." And I was like, "No, I'm going to go." They said, "We'll tell you what, come on a ride along. If you like it, we'll pay for you to finish school and go to graduate school." And I was like, "Really?" And they were like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay," because I had now lost my scholarship because I was at a different state. I was barely getting by. I was struggling, to make ends meet. And I was like, "Man, education to be paid for sounds great." So I went on a ride along about a week later and I couldn't believe it. I was like, "This is everything I wanted and more. This is like chips on steroids." And that was it. I was like, "I'm in." I applied. They hired me 5 months later. I was in the academy by January the following year. That was it. Done.
I love how
And
easy that worked out for you and
timing,
how
right?
much
Universal
yeah,
guidance and timing. And I never looked back. I
100%.
was never sorry. It was the best
And I
decision
mean,
I ever made.
you knew from the time that you were 3 years old that that was what was meant for you, and then that was confirmed as soon as those cops took you on that ride along.
They did. And it wasn't even that exciting of a night. It's not like we went on a car chase and a triple homicide. It was a very average run-of-the-mill night, and the guy I rode with was a very average run-of-the-mill guy. Nothing, he was not super rah-rah. He was just go to work, take his calls for service, make a couple car stops. But even that average night was so exciting for me. And that was it. I
Mhm.
was I was totally just encapsulated by the ability to go out there and have this unique day every day, to be outside, to interact with people, to hear their stories. I love, much like you're doing, I loved hearing people's stories and understanding why and how they got where they are.
Yeah, that's amazing. I remember my first ride along with the department I ended up working with. We went to so many different calls for service, and there were a couple exciting ones that I'm like, "Oh yes, I could totally do this for a long time." But I took a picture of the car while I was there, like midway through the shift, and I was like, "I'm taking this picture so that I can manifest being part of this department and not forget what I'm feeling like right now." And it ended up
Awesome.
happening. Yeah, it's amazing how even just a little bit of time spent can really make such a big difference for you.
That's right. Clear vision,
Yeah.
right? Just knowing.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So you got hired on with Las Vegas and then you retired as the assistant sheriff. So what did your journey look like while you were there?
It's really funny. When I was in field training, I had this sergeant that I really, really loved, and I wanted him to be proud of me so much. And one day he made a comment that just it half broke my heart and half motivated me for the rest of my career. He said, I'll never forget, we were sitting at dinner in this little awful restaurant in the southeast area of Vegas, and he said, "You're not going to make it 6 months, showgirl." And he kind of chuckled. And I know he didn't mean it in a degrading fashion because he was actually very good to me and he would take the time to teach me and he actually helped me out in a few things. But I was like, what does that mean? Like, you don't think I'm going to make it. And let me add, Sam, a story I like to make sure that is understood so people understand the depth of my dedication to this career. I know that your viewers can't all see it, but my hair actually hits my natural waist right now. And when I went into the police academy, it was that long, if not longer. And we had to shave our heads. They told us you will wear your hair above your ears. Oh no, this was the exact line. They said, "Ladies, congratulations, you've made it. Women's rights, good for you. You all wanted the same standards. Well, you got them. You'll wear the same uniform, same vest, blah blah blah. Oh, and you'll have the same grooming standards." And I thought, well, that's great. I'll put my hair in a bun. It'll be off my collar. That's no problem. They're like, no, no, you don't understand. You will shave your heads above your ears, above your collar. It will not be more than a half inch on the top of your head. So no, I was not G.I. Jane, but it was a little tiny spiky crew top.
I'm gonna need to
And
see pictures of that.
oh, it's awful. It's awful. And I was not a cute crew top girl. And but we did it. I did it. All of us in the academy, all six females in my class of 120, we did it. But a couple things happened. Number one, there was nothing they could do in police academy to make me quit. They took my hair. What, I'm going to go back to being a bald showgirl?
Mm-mm.
And number two, it was like the great equalizer because it made me the same as the guy standing next to me. And I felt the same. I looked the same. And I wanted to be treated the same. And so fast forward, now I'm in field training with my little shaved head barely growing out. And this guy tells me he doesn't think I'm going to last 6 months. I was like, dude, I don't think you understand what I've been through to get here. Right? Like I gave up my showgirl career in the longest running show in Vegas. I shaved my head. I have nothing to go back to. I haven't finished college yet. Like I'm here. I'm not leaving. You're stuck with me. And the day that I got promoted to assistant sheriff, I took a picture of my badge, and he had long since retired, and I heard he moved to like Montana or Idaho, but I found his number through a guy and I texted him and I said, "Hey, this is Sasha. Can I text you? Or, is this still your number?" He's like, "Oh, oh my God, great to hear from you." And I said, "I want to send you a picture of something." And I sent him a picture of my badge. And he said, "I know exactly why you're sending me this." He said, "I'm really proud of you." And I said, "I waited 25 years to hear those words." And it was funny that that little throwaway comment he made just lodged in my brain. And that was like closure, right? To finally say, look, not only did I last 6 months, I lasted almost 26 years.
That's amazing. That is
So
such an amazing story. Sometimes the smallest things, like you said, just stick with us and motivate you throughout your entire career. Because I'm sure that you heard his voice in your head many times throughout those 25 years, 26
y-
years.
yeah, I just didn't want him to be right. I
Right.
was like, well, why can't I be here? I belong here.
Yeah.
I earned a place here, right? And that was
Yeah.
important to me that I wanted, and like you and I had talked about, I wanted to earn every place I ever went on that department. Don't put
Uh-huh.
me here because I check a block. Put me here because I earned it, just like the guy standing next to me or behind
Mhm.
me.
Your determination and work ethic is really inspiring. So that's an amazing story. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you did a few things throughout your career there, and you told me we talked a little bit about how you went from you were on patrol, but then you ended up getting into counterterrorism.
Mm. So I was committed to staying in patrol for at least 5 years because everybody said, "Oh, you got to earn your way, you got to earn your, pay your dues." And I was like, "No, that's cool." I ended up on a great patrol squad, and we actually were the same squad for 3, almost 4 years, which is very rare because you go through the bump and different things happen, and seniority will move people around and people test to go places. But we were the same squad for the most part, give or take one or two people, for three, going on 4 years. And we worked an area command called South Central Area Command. It was just east of the Strip, and it was great. It was that they had an intersection there that had the highest crime of any space in the state of Nevada. And we prided ourselves on that. I'm sure our captain wasn't happy about it, but we loved working it. And, it was a time where um, we hadn't iPhones weren't yet a thing. We still had flip phones, and body cameras hadn't come out yet, and we were just on the precipice of getting tasers. And policing was different. We chased bad guys, and when we took them into custody, we took them into custody using the minimal amount of force necessary to effect an arrest. They didn't complain on us. We didn't arrest people with any sort of bias, and we put people in jail that needed to be in jail. And we sometimes chased them around dark corners, which probably wasn't tactically the most sound thing to do. We chased them until our tires fell off of our cars sometimes. And we had a great time doing it. Now, did we learn a lot since then? Of course we did. Our tactics are safer. We keep the community in mind. We don't drive so fast. Like all of those things, the evolution of policing, very important, that needed to happen, happened. But there was a sweet spot. in the late 90s, early 2000s, where we learned how to police. We learned how to take Polaroid pictures and get information from people, right? We learned who people were in our neighborhood. We learned what they needed. And it really was, in a weird way, harmonious. I used to say it was like a good guy, bad guy understanding. They knew who they were, we knew who we were, and when we caught them, which we didn't always the first time, but we eventually would, we took them to jail, and they didn't complain, and we didn't use more force than necessary. And I think there's something to be said for that in policing. And, you didn't see the broad stripes in the media that you do today, what we're all suffering from. When one person does something, it affects the ripple effect across the country, right? And we saw it in George Floyd, we saw it in Ferguson, we're seeing it now with ICE, we're seeing it January 6th, all of these things that affect law enforcement, no matter what the badges that you wear. And that's where I learned how to be a police officer. And I had great bosses then where I understood leadership. And in 2004, I had two officer-involved shootings in a very short amount of time. And at the end of that, when I came back to work after the coroner's inquest on the second one, uh, I remember my captain saying, "You have to be careful how long you stay embedded in darkness because you don't want the darkness to become you." And I thought about that. And look, having a yoga background, that on some level made sense to me. But my ego was so wrapped up in my squad and my being that I didn't want to leave. And then I had an in custody death about 4 or 5 days later where a guy, naked, because they're always naked, jumped off the third floor balcony of his apartment complex in what we now call excited delirium and landed on the hood of my patrol car. And when he had jumped through his window, he had glass shards protruding out of his body. And when he hit my car, they impaled his body significantly. And when I went to put a blanket on him, all of the standing people standing around were yelling because obviously it was a big scene. They were yelling, "Don't touch him! Don't touch him! He's got the HIV." And it took my brain a second to understand. They meant he had HIV because HIV was still very prevalent in the early 2000s. And I was like, "Oh, okay, thank you." And so because we didn't wear gloves as routine practice back then, we just didn't. And I had them, so I pulled them out of my car, put them on, and as I went to wrap him in a blanket, he was fighting and flailing, and blood was flying everywhere. And I remember trying to ask the fire department for help, and it was before we had really worked to create that symbiotic relationship. And they were like, "No, we're not going to help you till you guys get him into custody." And there was no other police officers there yet because it was a really busy night. And I remember at that moment thinking, I need to make sure that this never happens again with the fire department. I got to build a better relationship with those guys. And then the second piece was I needed to learn better ways to help somebody medically because I didn't like this guy bleeding out of my car, which he ultimately did and died. And I just felt like that was a real fork in the road where I had the opportunity to fix things. And a day later, my boss came to me, my captain came and said, "Hey, I want you to take the test to go be a TAC officer at the police academy. I think that your stories are very relevant right now, and you could probably use a break." So I took the test and came out number one on the TAC officer test and was shipped off to the academy a few weeks later, which honestly, Sam, number one, saved my life. But number two, greatest job on the planet. Check it out. They pay you to work out, yell at people, and tell your war stories. Literally the greatest job I
Who
ever
doesn't
had.
want that?
And right, you get to take people from being, McDonald's workers, construction workers, or college students to being police officers. It was awesome. And I stayed there about 3 years before I tested for sergeant.
Wow. Yeah, that must have been so cool to be able to shape people's lives like that, especially since you had that fire so deep inside you to be able to share that with other people who very likely had the same. I bet you're a very
Absolutely.
good mentor.
Well, I enjoyed teaching. I enjoyed the aspect of sharing and seeing them evolve. And at this point, I'd been teaching yoga for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. So I enjoyed that piece of it. And they were all motivated and young and, either fresh out of the military or fresh out of some college sports. They were in shape. And so we'd go train with them and we'd train hard and they loved it. And so it was like that perfect sweet spot in life.
Mhm. So you
Which
spent decades in law enforcement at Las Vegas. What was the point? when you started to think, okay, it's time for me to leave local policing and move into the
Mm.
corporate world? When did that thought start to happen for you?
I never wanted to leave law enforcement. I I think I would have been one of those people that stayed 40 years and just loved it. And I think I was telling you yesterday about Chief Kirkpatrick in New Orleans, who I just think the world of because she's such a role model for women in law enforcement, for leaders in law enforcement at that. And I always saw myself ending up like her, being a chief of police somewhere 40 years in and always being the mentor. But then some realities happened. I had three kids and they became more and more expensive with activities and school. And I also wanted the opportunity to be home with them more and to spend time with them and guide their day more. But it's sometimes one of those things where at the level that I was operating at with it in Metro, the boundaries became blurred. I was on my phone 24/7. I was getting called out. I was not able to I was not able to go on spring break or certain vacations. And then you reach a point financially where we top out on the police department. I couldn't make any more money and I couldn't go any higher without running for sheriff. And I don't enjoy the politics. I don't enjoy the political aspect of policing. And our department was changing. You know, the people that I'd grown up with on the agency were retiring. My sheriff was going to stay and do another term. And, you know, the people around me were no longer symbiotic into my values and what I wanted to do. So I told the universe, hey, I'm ready for a new opportunity. And within hours, I got a LinkedIn post that said, hey, FIFA's hiring for director's intelligence. And I applied, and because timing was right, they called me back for an interview and then another one and another one. And it just unfolded very quickly. However, I will tell you this, at the same time, I thought I wanted to do intelligence on a international level. So I applied to work at a federal agency in Washington, D.C. And I had a woman that I just admire so deeply, Christy Abazid. She was the director over at the National Counterterrorism Center, and I really wanted to go work for her because she is extraordinarily bright and intelligent, and she's a visionary. So I was also really stoking the fire on that side. And then the election happened and a lot of things in DC happened and she ended up getting another job opportunity and left. So it all like really pointed that yes, Sasha, go to FIFA. This is a direction you're meant to go. DC is going to go a different route and it really all fell into place. I couldn't have asked for it to happen in a more divine fashion.
I love when things happen in divine fashion because that is exactly how my life works out too. And how would you tell someone who might not necessarily trust in that or who doesn't believe that things work out divinely or is just having a really hard time because they want to retire, they want to quit and just can't find what's next for them?
You're right. And I tell you, and I'm sure you saw it on your department, people that would put the countdown clock on their phone, like, oh, I only have 60 days to retirement, or whatever. That was never me. I loved every day of my career, even the hard days, even the ugly days or the painful days, even the days where I went to work and I felt like the whole world was against me. I didn't want to do anything else. I loved being a police officer and I loved leading people. I loved the people around on my team and my crew, and I'm so grateful that I had that opportunity.
Yeah. And if you're talking to someone who doesn't feel that way or who's just confused about what to do next, what advice would you give them?
Listen, it's a choice every day, right? When you wake up. And everybody says it, but it becomes more and more apparent the older I get how short life is. And it's actually a weird kick in the teeth. It started for me in my 40s, maybe my late 30s, where my friends from college and high school just started dying. I had a couple friends in their late 30s commit suicide. I had a couple of them die from car accidents, and then you hit your 40s, and I think it's more prevalent in policing because of the stress. Uh, I probably had 8 or 9 friends within a decade just die from heart attacks, die in their sleep, keel over. You're just crazy things that people you wouldn't have expected. And so you think, oh my goodness, these people are dying And then COVID happens, right? And then more people start dying. And I thought, I don't want to live complacent. I don't want to live kind of happy. I want to be thriving and joyful every day to the best of my ability. Not that I won't have bad days. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that's a choice that I get up and do what I love every day with the people that I love every day. And I don't want to sacrifice that for anything, not for money, not for title, not for rank, not for prestige, nothing,
Wow.
you know.
I yeah, I'm the same way, and it's a choice every single day when you wake up to choose to do things for yourself to bring joy. And it's really
That's
hard,
right.
especially if you are in a rut, whatever type of rut that is, whether you really dislike your job or you haven't been able to be physically active because you got injured, to look at your life and say, oh, I have all these things against me right now. I can't make anything happen. Things are not going to work out. But that's just a mindset. Like it's just not true.
100%. And you know what, Sam, I'll even take what you said and say, in my last year at Metro, at as much as I loved my job, and look, having the title of female assistant sheriff, wow, I mean, super cool, and people give you accolades all the time. But here's what I'll tell you. None of it was worth it because of the toxicity that existed in the workplace at that time. And I had to be honest with myself, at which point the toxicity outweighed the benefits of me being there. And the toxicity created an environment where I became less effective as a leader, which means that's not fair to my people who depend on me to be an effective and efficient leader. And if the toxicity is winning and I am no longer effective in getting what I need done for them, then it's not fair for me to stay any longer. And that's what happened at some point. My boss lost his way. He wasn't making decisions as clearly as he used to. And that's not a dig, that's just an observation from below. And at some point, we have to go, hey, that's okay. We had a great run. I had 26 phenomenal years. And sometimes when God tells you to sit down, you don't look for a chair. And I feel like that was a point that I reached, and I had to be honest and fair to my people and go, hey, you guys are going to be just fine and you're going to thrive, and somebody else is going to come into this position and hopefully be more effective. And I'm going to go onto the outside world and be more effective. And that's a win win for everybody. And so
Mhm.
I think that that's also a piece when people get to their career where they have to recognize, when does the negative outweigh the positive?
And how do you make that decision?
It's painful. Look, I would be lying if I didn't tell you that I sat through plenty of sessions of therapy with somebody to go, hey, am I crazy? Am I walking away from something just because things are toxic or things are hard? And all the signs kept pointing to, it's time to go, it's time to go, it's time to go. And I'm a big believer that, like you said, every day I wake up and have a choice. I'm in control of my happiness. But if I, but in yoga, we often say that if you're suffering, suffering is not bad. Suffering is actually a good thing a lot of times. But they ask you, how do you decrease the time between where you are and what you want? In between that space is suffering. But if that suffering feels eternal, you have two choices. Number one, you're either disconnected from your source, your light, your essence, or your belief of God, or you need to change your circumstances. Well, I did a lot of work to make sure I was rooted spiritually, mentally, emotionally. I'd been going to therapy, I'd been doing everything I needed to do, I was seeing clearly. Well, that means that the only thing left was my circumstances. And my circumstances at work were toxic, unfortunate, and not changing in a direction where they were going to be comfortable to bring me light and joy again. And so that was it. Like, I had to, as much as painful as that was, I had to go, okay, it's all right. I surrender, and I'm going to move on now because I've done everything I want to do here at Metro. I've created programs, I've mentored people, I've promoted, I've written policies, I've done it all. And I feel truly like I made it better than I found it. I left it better than I found it, both in the community and on the department. And even if that's only 2% better, I still feel like I made it better. So it's okay. It's time to go.
Yeah, just from talking to you a couple times, I totally believe that too. And this conversation goes back to what we were talking about before you became a cop with the nudge. When it's time for you to leave, there will be more nudges. there will be more signs. And the more that you ignore them, the more prevalent and
Yes.
in your face they become. And that has
Yes.
happened to me many times with decisions in my life. I I trust my gut instinct. I've become very good at discerning when
Good.
it's my gut, my intuition, God versus the anxiety and fear. And I think that that's a really important skill to master as a person, and especially in law enforcement, which most cops have that anyway, because you need to have that while you're on the street. But
Oh, it's so true.
yeah, but when you're making the decision to leave, is it just because you are struggling with a certain thing, but that's something that you can fix and you really love your job and you want to keep it? Or are there a lot of signs that keep nudging and pointing you? Because a lot of the times they're going to be little things that start to add up versus just one big circumstance or situation that's like, whoa, okay, it's time for me to go. At least from my
Exactly.
experience.
I agree with you. And look, there's something to be said for the universe opening new doors. And
Mhm.
when FIFA opened, I thought, when am I going to have the chance to work a World Cup again? Like, when will the United States get a World Cup again? And the answer was, we don't know. It might not be in my lifetime. So I was going to walk through this door and do something that makes me wildly uncomfortable. I don't know. I didn't, when I started here, look, I will not pretend I was a soccer expert. I was not. And I had never been to a World Cup game. I mean, who was I to walk into this position? But what I did know was risk and threat and terrorism and relationship building. And I did have relationships in fusion centers across the country. I did understand law enforcement practices and protocols. And so that's why they hired me, right? To come in and build a team and to have those connections so we could look around the corner and help the boots on the ground properly deploy and forecast what their threats were going to be and understand football intelligence on a level that had never been comprehended in the United States before. And that felt so exciting and new and invigorating to me because at the end of the day, when I get out of bed at 4:30 in the morning, that mission on top of my family drives me and energizes me. And I didn't want to lose that in the toxicity that had become my work environment. It wasn't fair. The mission's too important, no matter how we decide to work it.
I think most cops can say that mission and family are two of the most important things in their life, and especially finding their mission or service after law enforcement. And same goes for the military. When you're in a service position for so long, that's something that you want to keep and you don't want to lose it. So I'm so glad to hear that you have that with FIFA. So tell us about what you do with them. Like, what's a day to day, or what is the bird's eye view of what your job is now?
I work for an organization that is international, and in every pocket and corner and desk and area, there's languages being spoken. Some of them I recognize, some of them I don't. It's really an exciting space to be in. I have the opportunity to focus on how to build risk and threat assessments with a team that is far smarter than I'll ever be when it comes to analytics and how to build these practices with mitigations and aggregators that really put together a comprehensive look at fan behavior, fan dynamics, and what we're going to be encountering when three nations come together to host the largest sporting event in the world over a 39-day period. It's really extraordinary. And, our president of FIFA always says it's like hosting three Super Bowls a day for 39 days. And yeah, the magnitude of that is extraordinary. When I worked in Vegas my final year, I got to put on F1, which was super cool. But I mean, think about it. We closed down Las Vegas Boulevard and have cars race around at 100 miles plus an hour at night on the strip. So I thought, oh, okay, now I've seen it all. And then a month later, we put on New Year's Eve, in which we get 300 to 400,000 people on Las Vegas Boulevard drinking, partying, complete debauchery, right? And then we rolled right into the Super Bowl, which is the largest American sporting event that we get to see. And it all happened so quickly. And I was in charge of putting on major events. And I thought, man, I don't know how we just pulled this off. This was like the trifecta of events, but I hadn't really seen anything yet. Not until, I mean, what we're about to embark on far surpasses any of that. So it's been very humbling to be here and to work with people that just operate at a totally different level. They're so smart, they're so engaged, and I just feel lucky to learn from them every day.
Yeah. And I think this is a testament for the viewers, for anyone that's watching this, that there is so much opportunity in life and excitement after law enforcement. Because a lot of people are really worried about what their life is going to look like. And, oh, I won't be able to do the same exciting things. I won't have these adrenaline fueled situations. Nothing can be as exciting, but it's so not true.
Well, listen, I mean, what you said is spot on. I will tell you exactly what the words you just said were in my head. I constantly thought, what am I going to do? How will I find that adrenaline? And let me be honest, I don't have the same adrenaline now. I don't. I'm an inside dog. I'm planning things. When I go on a walk for lunch, it's the most exciting part of my day. But you learn how to activate different parts of your brain. You learn how to find adrenaline through other means, and you learn how to prioritize the mission in a completely different way. It is an acceptance phase. Look, I'll tell you, the first 2 months here, I was going stir crazy. I had to go through the grieving and the loss of what I had of wearing that uniform and that badge, and then a falling in love period with what I have now. It's like a relationship, right? You grieve the loss and then you learn how to love again. And I would submit to your listeners that it's retirement from police work is really no different. Um, and it's okay to grieve. Look, my best friend is still a police officer on my department. She's a captain. And whenever she sends me a picture or sends me things and she's in uniform with all the other girls or everybody, all of our peers, I'm like, oh man, I have such FOMO. But I have to stop and go, you know what, Sash, it's their time. It's their generation. It's their time. Be happy for them. They're living it, right? They're having those moments that I got to have. And so I just try to live and experience her joy with her and then help her as she's about to go through this process of retiring within the next year or two and into stepping into what lies next for her. And so I try to find joy in all of those steps, may it be through other people or through what I got to do. But there is life on the other side, and it is super exciting. I always tell people start early, like don't wait until a couple weeks before you're going to retire. Start 18 months out, build your resume, build your CV, and ask for help. Get mentorship outside your police department. Talk to people that are in the private sector. Get guidance, get references, get ideas, and apply. I applied strategically to just two or three different things where other people feel like it's swipe dating and you should apply to 50 different places. I didn't do that. I was very calculated, but both ways work depending on what your personality type is.
That is a great segue as we wrap up. I wanted to know what your advice was for people who are considering leaving law enforcement. I've talked about before how you need to be strategic about your applications because shotgun applications has never worked out well for anyone. So, what would you say your most important piece of advice is for a cop who has left or is leaving law enforcement and needs some help?
I went to a professional resume builder and I sat with her and had her build my resume out. And I had always had one, but I wanted a resume that stood above the rest. And she took the time to do that. We reformatted it. And then I had one made because I told you I was sniffing around in DC simultaneously. I had one made to fit the criteria for government work in DC, and then I had one made to fit private sector. And then I had her help me write the cover letters for the two or three places that I applied to make sure it fit exactly what they said in their posting because I wanted to look professional. I didn't want to come off like a grunt from law enforcement. I wanted to look, like I belonged. And then I had her explain to me the process, and then she went through, updated my LinkedIn page, which I had never really spent any time on, and she really helped me understand. And look, the truth is, my contract is up here in a few months, so now I'm back on the drawing board of what am I going to do next, which is both petrifying and exciting all over again, and trying to figure out what do I build out, how do I update my resume. I'm literally practicing what I preach right now, so it's exciting. At least I have an idea of what to do, but who knows what the turnout will be.
That is so exciting. And you have had an exceptional career. And I know that you are going to continue to have that. So good luck with the World Cup this summer. And thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming on to Cop to Corporate.
Thank you for having me.
This video was recorded and produced by Just Talk Studios, the premier video podcasting studio in Bellevue, Washington. Visit justtalkstudios.com to learn more and book your session today.